this. We're joined now by Zeidon Alkinani, political analyst and contributor to Open Democracy. That's an independent global media platform, and he's joining us live from here in Doha. Very good to have you with us on Aljazeera. So, Prime Minister Mahdi was supposed to be a technocrat in what is a very sectarian political system. He has had 1 year in office, but I mean, addressing so many years of corruption, of mismanagement, was never going to be easy, was it?
It will definitely not be easy. Being a technocrat in a regime that is based on an ethnic sectarian quota, from the Prime Minister, from the Speaker of Parliament, from the Presidency, from the provincial councils themselves, up until the ministries, to the most simple administrative positions within the ministries and the public sector. Being a technocrat in such a system means you will always go back to the ethnic sectarian division lines led by the political leaders of those communities that never represented the interest of those communities themselves. People in Iraq today are protesting against an ethnic sectarian regime. They're not protesting against Adil Abdel Mahdi personally. Adil Abdel Mahdi is a representative of that ethnic sectarian regime that was installed by the US. People are not expecting economic and short-term reforms or solutions. People are out there to protest. The main reason why people protested on October 1st was the downfall of a regime that never offered them the basic public services and education, healthcare or social services.
And Mr. Alkinani, as well as a change to that entire system, they also they want the US and Iran, external powers, to stop influencing Iraq's politics as much as they have. Do you think that the protests we're seeing now could lead to changes, to those substantial changes?
Absolutely. The anti-Iran segment is one of the main factors in those protests. People in Iraq, and in particularly in the Shia majority cities in the southern Iraq, are finally realizing that protesting and standing up against the Iraqi government without pointing your fingers at the Iranian regime and the Iranian influence in Iran is like in Iraq is like you never discussed or raised any issue going on in Iraq. Iraq is the Iraqi government in post-2003 Iraq is a regime that is installed by a US invasion to ensure that the US interests will always maintain and remain in the Iraqi economy and politics, and it's also directly controlled by the Iranian militias that are the armed wings of the political parties that are ruling Iraq today.
And so given what we are seeing now, just how significant a moment do you think we are witnessing in Iraqi politics?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Given the protests that we have seen in the last month, the fact that they have been cross-sectarian, people want an end to the entire system, and we're seeing, people protesting about issues rather than given to the sectarian divides. Just how significant a moment do you think we are seeing in Iraq?
Absolutely. The move from identity politics to issue politics was a thing that began in the protest in 2015, and it has been gradually increasing and succeeding on the Iraqi streets and within Iraqi activism and Iraqi intellectual arena. Today, the anti-Iran segment is a bit louder because Shia Iraqis feel freer to stand up against the Iranian dominance in Iraq. It's a bit harder for Sunni Iraqis to do so, or Kurdish Iraqis to do so, because that might take us back to the whole idea of this is a game of balance of powers, where each community or each sector in the Iraqi society is only standing up against the regional power player that supports the other community against it. But finally, we have Iraqis standing up. We have Shia Iraqis standing up, the Shia political parties in Iraq, with Sunni Iraqis standing up against the Sunni politicians in Iraq. For the past few years, we saw Kurdish activists and Kurdish protesters standing up against the Kurdish Democratic Party and the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. People in Iraq are realizing that those political leaders, those so-called political leaders of those communities, are only leading and taking the country to push the interests of their own political parties and their own economic interests of their own political parties and the regional power players that are supporting those political parties, and never the interest of their very own communities.
Mr. Alkinani, it is great to get your expertise on this. We really appreciate your time. That is Zeidon Alkinani live here in Doha. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now moving on to